Hey, everybody. I am super excited. It's Matt Milia here, and I want to welcome you to Business Insights. And I'm excited because we've got a lot of great things to talk about today. But in addition to what we normally go through, we've got some extra added value from Mikey Lucas, who is the passive income engineer. You're not going to want to miss out on all the details. And we're in a market right now that's very challenging. So Mikey's going to help maneuver, help show you where to go, what to do, what not to do. And he's going to discuss some ways that he helped build a massively successful brand and business. And he's going to show you how you can put the action steps in place so that you can put it in your business right away. But before we get into that, we'll go ahead and cue that intro. Welcome to Business Insights with Matt Milia. I'm your host, Matt Milia, and in this podcast, we'll talk about the real, raw, uncut business success secrets you won't find anywhere else. Follow my journey from entry level to CEO. We discuss real actionable items you can plug into your business right away. To subscribe to our weekly top tips, you can go to www.mattpodcast.com and join our community of elite high-level performers. And if you're interested in our inside sales company, you can go to www.appointmentstoday.com to jump on a free strategy call. And now, stay tuned for our podcast. All right. Mikey, thank you so much for jumping on, and would love for you to give everyone a quick introduction and tell us a little bit about yourself.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I made my first million in, you'd be surprised, but in door-to-door sales, and became financially independent at the age of 27. I had an awesome upbringing. I'm born and raised in Las Vegas. I'm now 30. I just got married to the love of my life. So I'm on a super high right now.
Congrats.
But I've had lots of hurdles. The crying on a curb stories that every door-to-door professional has. I've got those, and everything was not handed to me. I've had to work extremely hard for it and sacrifice. Most importantly, as I wish a lot more millennials our age would understand.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, congrats. It sounds like all the hard work has now paid off.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Awesome.
I mean, as any entrepreneur, I think I take world problems personally, and I definitely. Well, last night I didn't sleep very well, but I definitely can sleep well at night knowing that I'm attempting to change the world into something that's more exciting and inspiring, a future that's exciting and inspiring. But I sleep well at night knowing that I'm making a dent.
Love that. Well, we're in a really crazy economic climate right now. I mean, everything is inflation's through the roof, rates are up. There's so much turmoil in the marketplace. In your professional advice, in your expertise, I mean, what would you say are some tips that you'd give to someone who's looking to grow their net worth and ultimately become financially independent?
Sure. And as anything else goes, like I'm not a financial advisor, obviously, to seek legal, professional before investing or doing anything like that. But I don't give away my secrets. I just give away my strategies. There really is no secret. If someone tries to sell you a secret, generally it will be a secret maybe for a couple months, maybe even a couple years, which we see a lot of those. I'm sure you see those, Matt, a lot. But what would I say really to what the market's looking at? I mean, yesterday we had the chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, raised the interest rates, 50 basis points. It's a lot. What that looks like to the average American, at first there might not see very much. What it really looks like on a macro level is that really we could eventually see ports slowing down again. I've heard from top level people that I surround myself with that we're going to see some slowdown. COVID slowdowns and shutdowns in South Korea and in China have happened again. So we're going to feel that effect, which my companies have try to hedge bets against that, which I'm hoping to share some tips and tricks that I've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn this stuff and share them with your audience. So yeah, I mean, there's tons of things that we can do, but my strategy really is not just to be able to make money when everybody's making money, but to also make money when nobody's making money. I always say, my family's we're all tuna fishermen coming out of Madeira, Portugal, and they moved to San Diego with big tuna boats. I always, so I grew first generation off the water, Matt. I always like to tell people, look, you got to be able to, sail out of the wind and also into the wind. So, being able to understand how to tack is very important in this game that we call money.
I love that. And that's so you're talking about hedging bets against shutdowns and basically being able to operate when most people are pulling back and just kind of constricting. It seems like you're looking to more or less expand when people are doing that. Is that pretty fair to say?
It absolutely is, Matt. The Warren Buffett quote that it's hard because if you go back and look at my YouTube or my Instagram back in early 2020, you could see the look on my face. Like, this was my first. I've got a lot of money in the market and out there and in business and invested into businesses. You could see the look on my face. Like, I'm genuinely afraid. But at the end of the day, I gave my strategy and I said, hey, this is what I've learned from multi-billionaires. Like, I really think, Matt, what your audience needs is to understand that they need to stop acting like they want to be millionaires and start doing what billionaires are doing. It's not going to work if you act like a billionaire. You got to act like you're a millionaire. You got to act like you're a billionaire. Otherwise, you're going to get clobbered again. So yes, absolutely. The Warren Buffett quote of, when everyone's optimistic, you should be pessimistic. When everyone's pessimistic, you should be optimistic. Matt, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I just listen to the smartest guys. And actually, if they say, hey, this is going to be a test, this is going to be a question on the exam at the end of the year, or in a couple months, or at the next end of the week, I'm writing that down and I'm saying, hey, if they say this is important, after you see a trend of someone that is a successful person long term, you should probably listen to them.
And I love the fact that one of the videos that I watched, because I've followed some of your stuff, some of the things that you've been putting out there, and I really enjoy some of the videos you put out. One of them was about talking when you're using passive income. Let's talk about that. That's the most important. Using your money in a way where you're not out buying high-end cars and fancy toys with non-passive income. And I love the fact you talked about that for everyone that's watching. And I'd love for you to explain this. I mean, for guys like us, I mean, we have a good idea as to what all of that is. We know the ins and outs of it, but a lot of times most people, especially that are just getting into business, don't always know the difference between passive and active income. What are the differences between the two? Would you mind explaining that?
Sure. Yeah. So the main difference between like active income and passive income is, I don't want to, there's the whole, I'm going to say a lot of quotes, but guess what? These quotes are really important to me and I study these quotes. So, the whole, you can't chase, if you chase two rabbits, you're not going to catch one. You'll end up with none, right? You have to make sure that you're focused. A lot of times as young entrepreneurs, even myself, as a young entrepreneur, I wanted to either sell everything I possibly could, or get into real estate, into multi-level marketing, into, products, into, selling essential oils. Like, I wanted to do everything because I was like, what do they always tell you? If you don't have multiple streams of income and being paid while you sleep, you're going to be broke forever. So I initially thought, wow, I need to take out as much as I possibly can, but that's actually a myth. It's a fallacy. You need to get really, really good at one thing. Like, as quickly as you possibly can, become an expert in that field, get to 10,000 hours as quickly as you possibly can and study that like your life depends on it. And guess what? Your life might eventually depend on that. Your marriage, your kids, your community, your church, whatever, your city, your country might depend on that. So, as far as active income and passive income, I think the main thing is I take a large portion of my active income, which, 2 or 3 years ago was going around selling door-to-door solar panels to residential customers, and taking a large portion of that and investing that into oil and gas, which is kind of an oxymoron. How does a guy selling solar panels invest in oil and gas? But I invest in oil and gas. Why? Because that's what the billionaires are investing into. What are the other things that billionaires are investing into, which is real estate? Okay, cool. So I'm investing into real estate as well. I own a lot of real estate properties. I own I own Airbnbs, and then also then into food and beverage. They own, I don't own any land yet as far as a farmland, but I know that's what billionaires are investing into now, or have been. But I've got food and beverage as well. I've got this company called Everbowl. I've got 23 franchises of an acai bowl superfood shop based out of San Diego, California. They're here, in Texas. They're all over the country. But the main thing is to commit to scraping off the top 10, 20, 30% of your income and putting it of your active income and putting it into something that's passive, where you're not dealing with tenants, toilets, and termites, which is like in real estate. I don't want to have to deal with that. I don't want to have to, and no offense to all of our managers at the acai bowl place, but Everbowl, but I don't want to have to go up and put blueberries and strawberries into a 24-year-old girl's acai bowl. Like I don't care to do that. But guess what? I want to invest in somebody that is an absolute gangster, and that I can trust them. As what my mentors, Dan says, is you want to invest in good jockeys. You want to invest in not necessarily the horse. You want to invest in the jockey. It's important to distinguish between a company that's going to make it or a jockey that's going to make it long term, is going to show up when the roof is leaking and you got a convention or you got a store to open up the next day, and someone that's going to say, oh well, I'll get there tomorrow. No, if they're not there at 2 a.m. when that pipe bursts, it's probably something you don't want to invest into. But as far as passive and active goes, I talk a lot of controversial stuff against this, because I hear it all the time, and you do too, Matt. It's like people want to have passive income, but they don't realize that they're going to go buy the one property. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand, and I technically have courses, and I'm a coach, whatever. But I'm one of those ones that try to contradict, if you will, people and question people. Why do you want real estate? Why do you want oil and gas? Why do you want franchises? Why do you want Turo business? Why do you want Airbnb? Why do you want to invest in these things? They don't realize how much time actually goes into tenants, termites, and toilets, let alone blueberries.
It's true. And I think a lot of times too, people, a lot of these experts out there say, and you may agree with this, you may not, a lot of them say you need to niche down, get into one niche, just serve that niche. And I like how you didn't necessarily say that, but you also didn't go against that premise either. Right. You said that you need to become a master, 10,000 hours, invest 10,000 of hours into one thing, become so good as if your life depended on it, and that will serve you well. What are your thoughts because a lot of these guys, of course, you've got people that are real estate agents that might become insurance agents because they can make some passive income off of the insurance policies they sell. You've got guys that are, probably just like you were saying, maybe they're in solar and then like, well, let me look at real estate, or they're in solar, let me look at concrete coatings because there's money to be made there. Correct. What are your thoughts with people who are looking to grow out of that niche, build those other streams of income, and how do they do that without losing sight and losing focus of what they built originally, in your opinion?
It's a great question. I think a couple of the main things there is that the thing I got really, really good at, and I teach specifically, is customer service. And it's selling a service to a customer, selling an experience to a customer. So, Matt, if I got into real estate and I wanted to sell somebody their dream home, their first, second, fifth, 10th, 100th investment property, whatever, their mom's retirement home, I want to sell the experience to that person. I want to fulfill a need that they want. If I was selling timeshares, Matt, I would want to sell, the best timeshare for finding out what they want and what their needs are. I want to solve a problem that this person wants. And guess what, Matt? I would rather them buy it from me than buy it from anybody else, because I trust me. And I trust myself, and I trust my ability to be able to deliver the right product to the end customer. So no matter what product they're trying to get into, you need to be in the customer business. And again, that's when we were kind of talking a little bit off mic there, but being my personal business is 52.3% referral. So it's important that you do right to the customer, or tell them, I'm not able to serve you, and don't go get the sale, which is the problem, because most people, again, which I'm sure we'll get into eventually, but on this call here, but they're not taking care of their finances. So they literally have to sell that person so that they can pay for the bills that they have in front of them. So if you can just figure out and sacrifice a little bit, not raise your lifestyle up until you actually have passive income coming in, like, you can end up selling the right service to the right customer with no matter what you're selling. I can sell anything door to door, Matt. Anything, literally anything. I can sell anything door to door or business to business. I can do it.
I think a lot of people pigeonhole themselves where they live outside their means, or, and I'm not saying that, there's a lot of, I watch a lot of the different gurus out there, and I mean, of course, you hear there's so many different messages that are being put out about, where to invest, what to invest in, where to focus. Now, you brought something up earlier that I think's really important. You were talking about when some of these other countries are shutting down, you have these ways to hedge against that, or to give yourself that security, yeah, that financial, independence. How do you do that? I mean, just and I don't expect you to go into the exacts, but I mean, even just a broad overview, like, how would you do something like that?
The main thing is to understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I think on a personal finance side is to, like you were saying earlier, you said people pigeonhole themselves, and it's absolutely correct. We have to and must, like, I get it. America is like the ultimate consumer of the world, but you have to understand that if you continue to consume outside of what makes you happy, in other words, like, I'm a really big proponent of helping people that I coach on the financial side, is to give them the ability to, what I call, scratch the itch in the back of their head, and give them what's either called a blow money account or a fun coupons account, whatever one that makes more sense for them to call it that. But basically, it's for them to spend 1%, maybe 2% of their paycheck on stuff that's literally going to sit in their closet in about 3 to 6 months from now. So, like, I get that, but to help people have more of a delayed gratification to go buy that new pair of shoes, that new purse, that new wallet, that new belt, whatever, that new suit, that new watch, that new car. If we don't get away from that, you don't have the opportunity to put more money down when the market does go down. In 2009, people became multi-millionaires because they either a timing thing, you could call it sheer luck, could call it, will, whatever. But people that are more prepared end up making the most amount of money. And it's not, I mean, yeah, sure, it could be luck, but we'll see after a couple of years if they can keep that money, because it's very easy to go want to buy that new fancy boat, that new fancy car. Like, it's very easy.
It is. Are you this is a very controversial question, but
I know where we're going with this. Go ahead.
It's not a controversial question for you, but there's a lot of people that follow this man. And I was thinking about the guru. Who's the guru? And I'm like, Dave Ramsey, which I don't know. Did you think I was going down that road?
Yeah, that's exactly where I knew you're going.
All right. So my question is, and he gets, I mean, here's the thing. I've read Financial Peace and Prosperity. I've picked up some of his books. There are some things that he says that I feel are like, yeah, that makes complete sense. Have some spare cash, diversify what you're doing, but also he's very much so. I mean, like, for example, and this is for me, I still have trouble with this. Credit cards. Okay. Now I don't have credit card debt. I will say that I pay off my stuff every single month. I leverage debt. I feel like but I use the rewards. That's the most important thing for me. Who's giving me the most rewards? Where do I get the most cash back? And this is awesome. I'm probably the most excited I've ever been on a podcast talking about this, because this is so applicable to not just entrepreneurs, but it's everyone. And so, going back to my original, Dave Ramsey, yay, nay, somewhere in between, what are the thoughts on the things that he teaches?
Dave and I, this is like, if you want to talk about religion, Dave and I have doctrinal salvational problems. We disagree. We can have like 99% correct, but the one thing that gets you to heaven, if you will, we disagree on very, very heavily. So I 100% disagree with Dave's approach or let me start here. I agree with most of what Dave says, which Dave, helped my mother get out of debt and help her give her financial, uh, financial, not honestly financial independence, but Dave helped my mom gain somewhat level of financial literacy,
Hmm.
and also comedy at the same time. Like my mom like laughs at these people that are on his show a lot, and I'm like, Mom, like you got to be careful because like those who you hang around with most, if you listen to these people the most, are going to become like them. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we disagree on the biggest thing ever, which is debt. Billionaires leverage debt. Now, on the general side, which is where your and my audience comes into play here, is everybody else, which is us. I'm not a billionaire yet. I'm just documenting my journey to a billion. I'm going to unapologetically become a billionaire because I want to solve big, world, large problems. And to do that, you need to have lots of money. But Dave and I've read most of his books too. I haven't taken his course, but I've watched a lot of his stuff. I originally really disliked the guy after he said, that you should buy solar panels cash. And I'm like, well, what happens to everybody else that is the 99% of people that cannot buy solar panels with cash, Dave?
Right.
Like Dave doesn't, people don't remember, they don't put this into context that Dave is talking about. That Dave is not continuing to remind people that there's a good deal for a car and there's a bad deal for a car. There's a good deal for a house and there's a bad deal for a house. There's a good deal for a product and there's a bad deal for a product. But they take his word, as gospel, and it's disturbing because then people are saying, well, I'm not gonna save $700 a year by pulling out a 20-year, 10-year loan on a solar panel system because I can't pay cash for it. So, and I'm like, well, if you would have just listened to me 5 years ago and then put that money towards your principal of your home, you could have paid your house off 5 or 6 years earlier, and then actually became financially independent and leveraged debt. There's a difference between good debt and bad debt. So yeah, you and I are very excited about this. I love this because, dude, this is so practical to the average people like us, dude. Like
It
us,
is.
like no one taught me about credit. Like I had $26,000 worth of credit card debt, not realizing, and I started a company in Dallas Fort Worth, and it ended up or an office rather in Dallas Fort Worth during my solar days, and it ended up tanking. And I didn't even realize like, hey, like you could yeah, I didn't realize my credit got completely destroyed. I thought my life was over. And many people in America, like their pride, their identity is based on how much, whether they're in the 5, 6, 7s or 8s. Like, oh, I've got 750, 790 credit score. It's like, okay,
Right.
awesome, but what's your bankability? Like, will banks give you loans? And like, what does that even mean? Like, you're sitting on a, a a rainbow at the end, the jackpot at the end of the tunnel with your mortgage because
Right.
old Davy boy, Davy Jones lockers, I like to call him, told you to not pay to pay off your house. Like, I get it, dude. Like, good debt, bad debt. People don't understand the
Right.
difference, and we could talk about that forever, dude.
Well, and here's the thing. I think we're both on the same page. There's a lot of things that I totally agree with, and then there are some things I'm just like, huh? And it's almost like you're giving advice for someone who's going to stay fixed in their financial position for the rest of their days. And why? The one thing I love that he says, and it goes back to what you said. A lot of people became millionaires in 2009 because when everything fell apart, and if you have money, and this is the one thing that I do love that he says, if you've got money when times are bad, you're getting things at a discount, you're getting things at a reduced amount, you're able to leverage the challenges that everyone has, and you're actually coming and helping those people out because you're taking things off of their hands, but then you're holding it, which is kind of your whole premise now with us talking. That's really your whole premise, is you're buying things when maybe there's a challenge, maybe there's something going wrong in someone's life, their situation, whatever the case may be, but you're holding on to that investment and you're letting it mature, you're letting it grow. You can do that when you put aside the cash and the funds to do it. But if you never risk anything, and I believe the fortune rewards the bold, that's just my opinion. I know some people think that's crazy, but most entrepreneurs would agree the fortune does reward the bold. If you don't take any chances, you don't take any risks, and you just put your money away for the rainy day, I think it only gets you so far. What do you mean? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and again, that's one of the biggest issues that I have, is because
Yeah.
if you look at history, our parents grew up and they saw the 80s bust, the late 90s bust, the 2008 bust, the whole, like, well, no one's seen this, but the whole shutdown in 2020, the world
Yeah.
shut down. Um, you know, the best thing that your listeners can do is to understand macroeconomics and trends. I'm not saying you got to become a genius in this, but you got to understand what history at some points will repeat itself. Now, I don't know if you remember this or not, but 2012, 13, 14, 16, 17, everyone was saying market's going to crash, market's going to crash. It's the whole, you get the whole, the wolf, the man, the boy that cries wolf. And it's
Right.
like, when you ask them, and I talk about this a lot on my YouTube, it's like, and my Instagram, it's like, why, if you ask them why they think the market's going to crash, they don't have really an answer. They might have one reason. They say, well,
Right.
because the market crashes every 8 to 10 years. And you're like, well, why does it crash every 8 to 10 years? Because, like, genuinely, I was trying to learn. I was like, bro, like, this person has this, I'm from Vegas, so this crap dealer or this blackjack dealer, like, understands that the market's going to crash. Like, how? But yeah, I think, the whole, the market goes to the bold thing, is the difference between what a smart investor does and what a not educated investor does. Is Warren Buffett's rules, again, another quote, Warren Buffett's two rules on investing is: rule number one, don't lose money. And rule number two is to see rule number one. So if billionaires are looking at, hey, we don't want to lose money, and millionaires and people that are below millionaires, they think, well, they have this, and I just got this concept in my meditations the last few weeks, is that people really are looking for that lottery. Like, I live in Vegas, so to Vegas, it's like, I'm gonna go, win, not the lottery, but I'm gonna go win. I'm gonna go bet my paycheck on black or red or whatever, and I'm gonna become a millionaire or something like that. But in other states, people have a lottery, and like there's millions of dollars worth of advertisements for lotteries. And I just realized that once I moved to Texas a few years ago, that, like, I was like, people really think like they're gonna hit the lottery, like they're gonna one day become rich. But Jim Rohn, as you know, he said, if you get $1 million, best you become a millionaire, because otherwise, if you don't become a millionaire up here, you're gonna get rid of all the money. So you study the lottery winners, and like over 80% of them are bankrupt within 5 years. Like, why? It's a financial literacy thing that we're not realizing how to make this, how to stretch your money. And I think, it's hard, but you do need to take risk, but calculated risk is what's most important. And you don't have to be an expert to understand that. Like, for instance, if you were to buy a stock, like, why don't you buy Starbucks stock because you love Starbucks? You freaking buy their you buy their stuff all the time. Like, why don't you buy that stock? Like, buy stuff that you like. One of my uncles told me, my late uncle, he always told me, just buy stock that you like. So I mean, working for Tesla back in the day, I bought Tesla and Tesla stock back at $167 back in the day before it even split. And I just held, because I was trying to, I knew that eventually, and in my book I actually talk about this, Matt. I talk about how the American dream is dead. And I know that this whole risk thing, and most people, again, they want to, we talked about cryptocurrency a little bit earlier, like they want the safe moon or the Dogecoin, like,
Right.
boom and bust, the rug pull stuff. It's like, dude, and then they get mad, Matt, at like the coin or the industry, or it's like,
Right.
man, like, you're over leveraged and you're not going to hit the lottery. Like, if your odds of hitting the lottery and losing all of it again is so high, why even try to win the lottery? Why not do this and have a strategy? That's why I tell you, I'm not going to give you my secrets. I'm going to give you my strategies, because that's what works.
Right. Well, and I think too, which, by the way, for everyone that's watching, definitely go to this man's website. He's got phenomenal insight. www.mikeylucas.com. You don't even have to put the www in there. That's old school. Just do mikeylucas.com. I don't know why I always default to that www, but you don't even have to put that in there. Just put mikeylucas.com. He'll come up. What's the name of your book, by the way?
It's called Purposeful Profit, Mastering the Millennial Mindset for Success.
That's a hell of a title. I like that. That is an awesome title. And it's so needed now because I feel like, and so with crypto, and I know a lot of people are this is going to be one of those very either popular or very unpopular opinions. Crypto is one of those things where I look at it, I'm like, this is so ridiculous because I don't know enough about it, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to study on some of this, but I look at it as a vehicle, and everything that I'm going to put cash into is a vehicle. I've bought a lot of different stocks that were like the first stock I ever bought. I got to tell the story because it's hilarious. This guy, Ed, in my office, older guy, when you think of like typical 90s sales guys, like this was the guy you think of. He had a real like a comb over cut, had always like the real conventional, like the white shirt with the blade, like he had the blazer, was a little heavier set guy, but he carried himself always like 6'4", 6'5", guys wearing like these fancy clothes. And I'm like, man, this guy knows what he's doing. Look at the way this guy's dressed, so I'm like, hey, Ed, what should I invest into? He's like, oh man, I've really been getting an Asian energy. So I bought into this Asian energy stock. Now, mind you, I didn't have like 2 pennies to rub together at that point. I mean, I was, hourly. I just got a job as an appointment setter. I was working for a mortgage company. I wasn't making big bucks at this point. And I'm like, I'm putting $500 into this. And at that time, it might as well have been 5 million. Yeah. So I'm putting all this money into this, penny stock. And I mean, literally, I shit you not, in a matter of a day or two, is just whoop down to like cut down to nothing. And I'm like, so I go ahead and I'm like, Ed, are you gonna, how do you help me? What am I gonna do? And he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know. And I'm like, well, you told me to put my money here. He's like, well, I didn't tell you to put all your money there. I just made a recommendation. So it's like with crypto, I say all that to say this: lesson learned. Don't put your last of anything into a stock. Obviously, and just like you've said, and I was watching, 70% of your income, and again, I could be wrong on this, so I'm trying to remember back from what I watched. 70% of the income goes to supporting, your bills, your regular life stuff. 20% goes to investing. What was the other 10% going towards?
Philanthropy, so giving it away.
Yes, I love that. So point being is, don't take 100% and put it all in a stock and hope for the best. Again, I know some people do that, and it's just, I feel like you're not diversified enough when you're doing stuff like that. And I mean, I can tell you half of the stuff I own now, as far as different stocks. I mean, I keep an eye on them, but I'm not watching them every day. It's that buy and hold mentality. It's I'm going to buy it, I'm going to hold it, because eventually it's going to come up. And I look at crypto because it's so, frankly, and again, it is just, I feel like it's unknown. Now, I do have crypto. I invest in it. I bought the Dogecoin, Shiba, all those. I'm looking at right now XRP, which I think is one that's very intriguing. I don't want to turn this into a crypto because we can go another hour talking about crypto. But my point being is that with crypto, it's almost like the penny stocks of the 90s, like the pink sheets, from the Wolf of Wall Street, where they're selling off the stuff that's so volatile that you don't know where it's going to be from one day to the next. But what would you tell someone? I mean, if you're a brand new investor and I'll just use this number. You make $50,000 a year. You got an extra $5,000 to play with. You're just getting your first adult job, and you say, hey, you know what? I want to take that extra $5,000. I want to invest in something. What would you recommend? I mean, and maybe even not specific stocks, but like what strategy would you recommend?
Well, take the $5,000. Let's go with the easy 10,000 if you don't mind, just to make it easy.
We'll do 10. Why not?
So in that, one of my mentors, the very basic, and mine gets, I have to reweigh my investment portfolio so often, like almost every month. to
Hmm.
every like 3 months. Now, as a new person going into, or someone that is trying to say, hey, look, I don't have money to lose. Like, you obviously have to understand that there is the ability to lose money. Now,
Sure.
what I would not do is I would not miss the boat of getting onto Bitcoin and Ethereum. And you, what you want to do is to hit up Matt and say, Matt, send me a link on Coinbase, and Matt will send you a link for Coinbase. Because why? You get $10 with Bitcoin, and so does Matt. Like, why would you turn down free $10 with Bitcoin?
Yeah.
So Matt, put that in the show notes. Click Matt's link here below and get $10 worth of free Bitcoin. Why not take free dollars? Then, the reason why I would say one of the like the two, they call them the blue chip coins. So your Ethereum and your Bitcoin. You definitely want to just, I mean, all I did with my wife before we got married, she was in the same exact boat of like 93% of the people that come into my office, the people that I consult, they don't have very much. Like, it's very few. Like 1 out of 10 people has a portfolio that's worth talking about. And that's not offensive. It's just, we are afraid. We just saw our parents lose everything in 2008, and they're saying every 8 to 10 years it's going to collapse. So why would we put money knowing, like, with your Asian energy stock, it's just going to go back down?
Right.
I've worked hard for this dollar. Why would I do that? I already don't like my job. I mean, you got people that don't even like their jobs. They're like, now I'm going to lose all the money I don't like. Now it's a double negative whammy. You don't want that.
Right.
The very basics, Matt, is 40-40-20. So in the investment portfolio, you can break it into that. I like things in my. I'm not really heavy into stocks. I've got 5 figures in stocks, but I'm not really heavy into stocks. Even though I invest into stocks, the reason why is because Albert Einstein says that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. Those who know it earn it. Those who don't end up paying it. So I'm like, okay, like, I have to have some sort of something that's going to give me compound interest, which is through the stock market. So as far as your investments goes, you want that top 40% to be ultra safe. Things like bonds, gold, silver. For me, lithium ion. Copper, stuff like that. I like stuff like that. That's super safe stuff. And then you have your other 40% that's kind of more medium risk stuff. Stuff like maybe Tesla or companies like even like Berkshire Hathaway. And you could fractionally buy these stocks through like Robinhood or through what's the other one I've got?
Ameritrade.
Ameritrade, yeah. So like one of those, and I'm sure you can put your link down below, and people again will get a free stock if they use your link. So don't pass up free money if you're not already doing this. Just do that. Click Matt's link below. He'll show you how to do that. And obviously we don't endorse any of these companies, which is it's free stock. So you can go Robinhood and get a free stock, whatever. I know I got a free portion of a Tesla stock for referring to people. I was like, sweet. But of that, the middle 40%, Matt, is more like growth stocks, growth companies. Things like Costco, things like for me, I fly Delta. I love Delta. I fly Delta. I actually buy Southwest too. If you go back and look at my April 1st or 2nd video that I filmed right as the market was crashing, you'll hear what I was talking about. I was talking about investing in travel. I was talking about investing in companies like Switch, which is data companies, NVIDIA, what's the other one? NVIDIA and AMD, these technology companies. My mindset is I don't want to invest in necessarily Tesla. I want to invest in the stuff that Tesla has to buy, which is copper, which is lithium ion, stuff like that. Now, if you don't want to buy Tesla because you think Tesla is volatile, well, what's going to make it past Tesla is electric cars. So why don't you buy lithium ion? Why don't you buy the copper that's going to go into the infrastructure and look for trends? If you see more Teslas around you and the government giving incentives to other car companies to give them electric cars, well, can I ask you this? Where's all the charging stations at? Well, okay, if we're going to get to a sustainable transportation future, which is Elon's goal, we're going to have to run a lot of copper wire.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've invested in a lot of copper and uranium recently, and I'm just buying and holding, man. Like, I am not letting go of these things. I know these things are going to run. I don't know how much they're going to run, but I'm doing my best to hedge against inflation. That's my whole. I'm seeing a trend. I like it, and then I'm hedging against inflation. Like, I know for sure Teslas and lithium ion and those types of things are going to continue to move forward. With that other 20%, Matt, I would those are what's called your shot to the moon, your shot of glory. I would take all that and I just put it, on a create an Excel spreadsheet. I can send you my example if you want it, Matt, and you can give it to your people if they ask for it.
Yeah.
But I have like a spreadsheet that I just Googled how to make a spreadsheet. I didn't know how to, I'm not an Excel person, so I just Googled how to use it. And I put in, this 40, 40, 20, and then boom. Now, if you're like me, you don't make the same paycheck every single week. You can't necessarily set up automatic drafts into, for instance, like $10 a week. I told you I did with my wife and my mom. We would do $10 a week, just to do $10 a week, or even $10 a month. Matt, just do something. That's $520 every single year. You're going to invest into Bitcoin, or $520 a year. You're going to invest in Ethereum. Like, just do dollar. It's called a dollar cost average. Like, what if it goes up? What if it goes down? Okay, first of all, Matt, one thing your audience needs to know is turn off the Ring notification for your Ring doorbell, because that thing is toxic, talking about how someone stole something in the neighbor's yard 15 miles away. Like, turn that thing off.
Right.
Okay? That's toxic. It's the same thing with your Coinbase and your Robinhood account. Turn that ticker off. Do not let it notify you. You need to stay focused on your active income so that you can have an exit strategy in 5, 10, 20 years from now, and invest small amounts. And again, just start small. Guess what? Over the next year, commit to $10 a week and just invest $10 a week into Tesla, into whatever. For me, I one of the very first things I tell people to invest in, or I show them what my first thing I invested into was a realty income, which is a real estate stock that would pay you monthly dividends. Because people get really, really jacked up, like excited about passive income. So I was like, hey, if you want to own real estate, why don't you diversify and buy a company called Realty Income O? And again, I'm not affiliated with these guys at all. And the stock is going like this. But guess what? They're getting monthly paychecks.
Oh yeah.
Or I think it's VTI, Vanguard's Real Estate Investment Trust, or VOO is what it is. Vanguard's Real Estate Investment Trust. And guess what? They get quarterly checks, and that puts people in the mindset as, I'm an investor. This is what it feels like to get passive income. It's great. They get excited. They're like, once they get their first like 25 cents, they're like, dude, 25 cents.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true, and it's funny because there are so. I mean, I'm with EXP because it's passive.
Great company.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and for real estate, I mean, I love it because they really support giving back to they support giving back to their people. So Mikey, to close things out, so for everybody that's watching, because you and I could go all day on this because I love this stuff. I love the financial aspect. I love the way. Now, I will say I'm not what you'd call the guy that's sitting there and like counting every penny and saying, okay, this is going to go here, this is going to go here. I like the approach that you have because it's basically a no nonsense approach to building financial wealth and independence, and you're giving actionable items and things that you can do that, like my intro says, you can plug into your business right away. And that's what you did today. So I thank you for that. And for everyone watching, MikeyLucas.com, go there, check it out, buy his book. I've already learned some things. I'm actually going to look into investing into copper when we get off this call because I didn't even think about that. There's those things you don't think about. And I'm like, oh, copper. I'm like, yeah, it's actually a really great idea. I would never think to invest in that, but it makes complete sense because we are looking to become energy independent. And I mean, I think that's great. So, Mikey, before we close out, anything that you want to let the audience know, anything whatsoever, any closing words?
No, man, just, I appreciate you having me on. I hope they got massive amounts of value. They could follow my stuff on YouTube and Instagram at Mikey Lucas. I try to do my best to add as much value as I possibly can to the common folk. Really, so that we can address the single parenthood and the kids growing up with just their mom or just their dad, and lower divorce rates based off of helping people understand and get a grip on money, because the divorce rates are super outrageous right now. And my parents, my dad was divorced a couple times, and I know that a lot of people were affected by that. So I know if people can get a grip on this thing we call the game of money, they can make less fights, and they can make less fights with their family, and just have a more fulfilling lifestyle.
I love it. Love it. Well, thank you again so much for jumping on. And for everybody that's watching, we'll see you same time, same channel next week. Thanks again, Mikey.
Thank you, Matt.